Welcome back to the Overwatch League here. We're in the Spring Stage Knockouts East Day number 4. It's me, Avril, with Dor, as we're about to head into the last 2 games of the day. Starting out with Seoul Infernal versus Dallas Fuel, closing things out with Panthera. O2 Blast, where Herix is going to come in as well. We just had 2 back-to-back 5 mappers in there, Dor. Like, we're 10 maps deep already.
It's hard to top those, to be completely honest. Like, 5-map insane series, but we've got some good ones on our hands, and ones that, honestly, I think have a bit more texture to them than it may seem on the top.
I'd like to hope so. I mean, I don't know if we're going to get another 10 maps, so this would be the craziest day of Overwatch League if we had, what, 20 maps, would it be? So, you know, I don't know if we'd be ready for that one. Surely, especially on your times, I don't know that you'd be ready for that one either. So these 2 next matchups probably not going to be as, you know, close and maybe as exciting as what we'd already seen. But I'm hoping for good stuff out of Dallas and Infernal, because Dallas have made improvements since they've joined the knockouts. We've seen a couple more different looks, playing more towards the Moira kind of stuff. Rush has been definitely cooking behind the scenes. Seoul Infernal are probably the favorites coming into this matchup. They are the highest seed as far as this bracket goes. Obviously, the Guangzhou Charge the highest seed overall between the Overwatch League teams, but Seoul Infernal, after having beaten Guangzhou recently, are likely power ranked as the #1 team. So, yeah, Infernal looking to be the favorites.
I think that's the big question, is what is Dallas cooking? You've got to have something in the oven at least if you want to take on Seoul Infernal right now, because last time we saw these 2 teams face, it was Seoul taking it pretty handily at that. Coming in, Dallas hasn't been really tested within this bracket, and this is the first real matchup for them. They allowed Sin to take a map off of them in the match prior to this, so it's already looking a little shaky. But let's take a look at that roster to start things off.
There's the core of the championships team still here to stay in Edison, Sparkle, and Hanbin. And as mentioned, already improvements that we've seen in the knockout so far, but they need to improve further because there are some real juggernauts in bracket B. You have the Seoul Infernal, who they're currently playing against. Solid Panthera and O2 Blast around the corner, where, you know, we saw how close O2 played Seoul Infernal just last week, and that's currently where the standard is set. That's, if you want to make the mid-season madness, you have to be on that level.
Not going to be easy, because not to mention, should you go down this one, it's practically shark-infested waters beneath you, right? Panthera, O2 Blast are 2 incredibly deadly teams. Dallas, though, seem pretty well lined up to do it. MCD doing particularly well. Bring in the Moira, something that is kind of specific to Dallas within this region.
Yep. For sure, I think a few teams in the West are starting to pick up the Moira here as well, but on the Eastern side, obviously Dallas had played in the West all up until this year, and now coming in, Rush is bringing his own little bit of flavor into the mix, and that looks like the Lucio and Moira compositions that Dallas Fuel have been famous for the last 2 years. MCD as well, very comfortable with the Moira. Back when I cast in, when he was in the Contenders days, back in previous minutes where we've seen MCD, brings up the Moira often, and Moira definitely one of his better picks next to the Zenyatta, I would say. So definitely something within the comforts of where the Dallas Fuel want to be. Solid on the other side, team to beat in the East at the moment. Took down O2 Blast in a Giga Banger last week, and now this time they'll play up against Dallas Fuel. Let's take a look at the roster.
Look, Avril, I think this team's just firepower incarnate. Starting off, though, I think we gotta mention one of the biggest things coming in today, MN3 and Zest just look unbeatable in the DPS line. That's going to be a tough one for Dallas to go up against, especially in this meta that's so well suited to those two.
We already saw plenty of what MN3 and Zest brought to the table last year. This year, I think they got even better. You know, in early preseason discussions, it's like, who's the better DPS duo? Is Shy Leave, are they the best DPS duo in the East and maybe the entire world? And that's starting to, that prophecy is maybe starting to turn around a little bit with Hangzhou Sparks' win versus the Charge. But for Seoul Infernal, I really think MN3 and Zest might make a strong argument to be the best in the region. Currently, they are just so strong and backed on the sidelines as well in terms of the support line. Skewed, who has received almost every single player of the match so far, and he's been a full force on this flex support, on the Ana specifically. Incredibly clutch plays, super accurate on all the skill shots that we see from the hero being played. And for Skew specifically, someone that had to play behind Shu last year, finally unleashed in a starting position.
And I think it's good to see that, right? Not just the ability to come out this season and show what he's got, but on top of that, having impact from the flex support position is something that the absolute best of them are doing right now. When we talk about those top-tier Kiriko players that were floating around over the last couple of patches, well, right now, it's on it. You need to be hitting your nades, hitting your sleeves. Those skill shots like you were talking about are critical, especially when you're playing into a Moira who doesn't quite have the same skill floor and the same blocks to being able to capitalize the same way. You've got to be consistent, and Skewed has been exactly that through the entirety of this season.
I think that will be the strength for the Seoul Infernal as we head into map number 1 here for Lee Jung, is their individual mechanical prowess. I personally have the DPS line of the Infernal as superior to the DPS line of the field, at least from a mechanical standpoint. Skewed, I think, is going to be a better player than MCD as well, but the strengths for the Dallas field are also a little bit different to the Seoul Infernal as well. They likely have the better tank play. I think Bliss and Fixer are fairly on the same level here, but beyond the individual prowess, Dallas Field, it's the hive mind that they've been famous for the last couple of years. That's Rush's specialty. Teaches the brawl, teaches the hive mind. If they can lock that down, then they can overcome any sort of mechanical gaps that could be there on the individual basis and overcome the Seoul Infernal as a team. That's something we saw them do versus Impreza last week. They'll have to do it again versus a much more difficult opponent now.
And I think you've hit on the tip of the iceberg there. In the rush, it's the identity for the Dallas Fuel. They're not going to want to play a lot of that dive, so map pools and map choices become a lot more important. Control center, where we're starting off, looks fantastic for the Fuel, though, to open things up.
And I think this is where the Dallas Fuel in future rounds and future maps as well, Junker Queen's going to be a really big pick for Harbin tonight as well, especially you know that Mag is going to be playing a lot of the dive tanks. The Winds will be coming out later on as well. Harbin is confident into the matchup with Junker Queen, and I'm sure he's also confident versus the Ryan in this Ram Ryan matchup as we head into more Dallas Fuel Lucio Mora.
Alongside the Reaper, this is classic rush. Straightforward mechanical execution, but again, really leveraging that hive mind that Dallas have. To isolate targets, shove the shotguns in their faces, and make them pay the toll to get onto this point. Seoul Infernal, until then, though, will take control of the high ground, which offers up a fair bit of poke angles for Skewed and Zest to take advantage of. They stab forward, bolstered by that Baptiste positioning, but unfortunately, they pay the troll toll that Dallas Fuel had set earlier for them and go down quickly.
This is where the Seoul Infernal, they had some decent damage to Blitz early, but couldn't find a pick. MN3 so far is the only trade, and I'm not too sure Symmetra is going to be the best pick for this matchup at the moment. The Reaper is just so much more sturdy. Symmetra could also be a point of focus for the Dallas Field in terms of diving pod. I know Zest was the first one down. MN3 has to be careful. He spikes a decent amount of damage done, though. Symmetra Wall will be one of the first ultimates up, but the actual first ultimate is Skewed on the Ant Matrix.
The upside of taking that much damage is that you do get that early support ultimate. They're going to teleport to the high ground, look to use it. Can't catch anybody out. The wall comes through. Still actually don't even step through it for positioning until a little bit later. That allows Dallas Fuel to get ultimates up of their own. The Annihilation for Hanbin will give him a second lease on life within this fight, one which he uses beautifully onto the health bar of MN3, bolstered as well. The Coalescence at his back. Should be a pretty easy cleanup for the Fuel.
Something that MCD has always been famous for on the Mora is very quick charges on the Coalescence, and just as quick was Harbin on the Annihilation as well, doing tons of damage despite having to hide away from the Ant Matrix coming in from Skewed. The previous fight, Harbin had done enough to be able to find the Annihilation. We have both Annihilation Cold running at the same time, and no sound barrier from Fixer. He had that one late. By the time the sound barrier was up, I believe somebody on the Seoul Infernal was already a 4 versus 5, so a lot of points to running it anymore. Dallas Field overcome it. Cole, Annihilation, too good of a combo. MN3 swapping up with Symmetra.
Now, though, is a big opportunity for Seoul to get in. Blizzard's up for both sides. Sound barrier's up. It's all about execution, though. Dallas Fuel stab forward, looking for the first opportunity, but all they found is a hail of bullets from the Bastion, which opens the door for Mag to charge in.
And Bliss, trying to figure out if he managed to get that sound barrier off or not, but Dallas Fuel pinned out of the fight super early. Mag doesn't even have to use a shatter. Skew the Ant Matrix to the back line. That allows M3 just to pump out the extra damage. Seoul Infernal, a good swap. I mean, I expected, saying a little bit early, the Symmetra, maybe not the best look for this particular matchup. Skewed immediately sees that, pulls the trigger on a different pick, already doing some decent damage. It's going to require a very large turnaround now for the Seoul Infernal as they finally got that point, but they're lacking by 91%.
Now they've got to get past the few ultimates as well, starting off with the Coalescence, which is immediately shattered! That's what's to make the difference. Edison trades it back, though, and all of a sudden we've got a Clown Fiesta on our hands. Kills aplenty, but only 3 members stand on the point, and they're all red.
We can continue this forward. Mag shatters rather, should be fairly free. You get past the wall of Harbin that can be broken really quickly by M3. Once that shield is gone, and very easy to play around. It's almost like playing up against a Sigma. Not quite, it's nearly free shadow range as well. Seoul Infernal give up a decent amount of ground together, which you got to be careful about.
Well, they want to bait them in so they can use this Bastion ultimate more efficiently. They do get a good bit of damage off, forcing out the Wraith form from Edison. Fuel will go back to count their cards for a moment before looking for this engage, but they're giving time for Skewed to come up with the Ant Matrix, which is another tool that Seoul Infernal can just use to buy time and force us towards last tight territory.
It's a good wall. Now might be a good time to play through that window. You have Hanbin potentially locked out. Infernal backing up for now.
We're backing up really far. If we're backing up too far, yeah, Mag goes down. The space is given up. Dallas Fuel are just able to poke away at Mag from far too many angles. The tank player just can't deal with it. Now you've got to find another way through the fight, and they do. With the help of Zest Blizzard, they've done a fair chunk of damage, but they haven't gotten through Hanbin's health bar quite yet.
They need to be able to get Hanbin down. He's so low. Finally, even there to find the angle. MCD couldn't keep the heals up. Decent wall coming on through to block LOS. And Dallas Fuel, they'll reset. Well played fight off the Blizzard of Zest. It's exactly what the Seoul Infernal needed after losing Mag. Buying time for Mag to come back in. Gonna head it to double 99s here. It's gonna be the Bliss sound barrier versus so far nothing from Seoul Infernal. I don't think M3's artillery is gonna be that impactful. Bit of a meme ultimate from my POV. This is gonna be a straight up neutral brawl with the extra sound barrier from Dallas.
The nice thing about the Bastion is it's pretty good at chewing through that sound barrier bonus health. Plays decently well into it if you do need to disengage, though they use the wheels early to take down Edison, who is far ahead of the team. A sound barrier pop now into a 4v5 for Dallas. They're forced into an extremely uncomfortable position. Now they've got to walk into an evocation matrix. This could very well be lights out before that sound barrier was able to have any sort of impact for the Dallas Fuel. Seoul Infernal strike early and strike hard in map number 1.
Yeah, they could not afford to lose Edison there. I'm not too sure how he got caught out. Maybe just took too wide of an angle. Didn't respect the damage from M3.
I mean, he was in Narnia compared to the rest of the team.
He should have had a Wraith form available because there's no way he would have had Wraith forced out early. Wraith form should have been available. He should have been able to survive that situation. Dallas Fuel, 5-man sound barrier, running to the Seoul Infernal, especially on the back line where they can try and take down M3, would have been ideal. But as soon as you set up a commanding position where Skewed has another Ant Matrix, M3 gets a fire through it for double damage. Seoul Infernal, layer that window over the point. Not a lot that Dallas Fuel can do, especially not with 4 players and no other ultimates. And the big change for me was, again, once you get M3 off the Symmetra in the Bastion, your matchup statistics in terms of winning that 5v5, I think, goes up by a lot.
Yeah. And notably, I mean, that's Control Center down. That was the map that Dallas Fuel were looking forward to the most here on Lijiang. Now, Night Market not looking any better. A quick fight win for Seoul Infernal as their rollout was just a bit quicker.
I don't think many of the Dallas Fuel members even made it through the TP because you see Harbin being caught out in the front lines. Seoul Infernal, their TP play was far more immaculate. All 5 members landed on the point at the same time, and as Dallas Fuel kind of trickled on there, 2 players went through the TP. Those 2 players instantly got melted, and we can also talk about the fact that Harbin is on the Ryan here. He's given up the Ram already. Haven't seen a lot of Harbin Ryan in the past. This is going to be a big challenge, though. He's up against career main tanks that have a lot of Ryan hours on them, like Mag.
Yeah, I mean, to opt into this here is crazy. I mean, we talked about it. We saw it in the last one.
Oh, that's
Dreamer talking about the Korean hottie. Well, Getting a bit of that offered up right now by Hanbin. Showing us some quality play with the charge onto Mag, taking him out of the fight and out of the equation right quick. Dallas Fuel will turn the fight easily after that.
I can't remember if Zest already used his
What? Wait, we're cooking with the Amp Matrix here. And Fix is causing a lot of chaos. Wait a minute, Mag's back!
Fix has got his kill, but the rest of the players are still struggling to be able to maintain at the moment. Wall coming down from M3. That might be the turner, so you're right. Okay, the window has given Seoul Infernal the opportunity to still play in this. Man goes down again, but as long as that wall is up for M3, it's still winnable for Seoul.
The big thing here for Seoul is they still have the point. Win or lose, they're taking up percentage, and they've got 2 supports to stabilize. Fix is going to go back in taxi, but Dallas are forced to call it. That is abysmal.
That was only 3 players up for Infernal, I believe. 3. And they couldn't. They, being the Dallas Fuel, couldn't clean up the last few members of the Seoul Infernal to get them off the point. And a very interesting Amp Matrix, which I think many times, like 8 out of 10 times, that probably wouldn't have been a waste. But yeah, perfectly played by Skewed and Seoul.
We talked about how many times Skewed has gotten the player of the match. For plays like that, I start to understand why. Dallas Fuel getting rolled over in this fight as well as Seoul. Storm forward off the back of an early blizzard from Zest.
That should have been a sound barrier fight coming through. I mean, Dallas Fuel needed to play for their own blizzard there, but Sparkle was one of the members frozen up. I don't know, did Sparkle use Ice Block early? That should have been available to save themselves. They know the touch has to come through, likely from Bliss, who they've already marked on the sidelines on Coast.
They've walled the teleport opportunity. Edison forced to use Wraith Form to walk into the point. Now they're walking into the Shatter. You have to block this, Hanbin, and he does. Deliver. Can't get one of his own, but that's fine. They've got a Blizzard to do the rest of the work. Sound barrier from Fixa looks to see them through it, but I think it's just a little bit too much from Dallas to handle. They're going to have to try and run back 99% on Night Market.
Super important, like you mentioned, that Hanbin blocks the Shatter from Mag. He does miss his own into Mag's shield, but the rest of the Dallas Fuel get onto point. They confirmed the touch, and I'm glad they had multiple angles of touching as well, which means Seoul Infernal can't cover them all. Bliss from coast side, TP play on the top, and also Reaper from Edison, Wraithform coming in from main. 3 different ways to touch, and Dallas will confirm at least one of them that buys them into the final fight. But how do they snowball now? Because they've run out of ultimates. They spent everything in that fight. Seoul Infernal also put in a pretty penny. The Skewed still has this window.
These Skewed windows have been particularly deadly. Those nice displacement by Bliss. By an opportunity. Those Dallas health bars are dropping ever lower, though, without the support of the Lucio. And eventually, they'll just all hit 0. Seoul Infernal take a small advantage, turn it into an entire map here on Lijiang.
It's going to be it. They win both the Brawl matchups, and that's scary for the Dallas Fuel. I mean, that was composition. That's the matchup that you would probably favor the Dallas Fuel in. If we talk about dive compositions here, okay, we already knew that Seoul Infernal were going to be the dive team. But the fact that the Seoul Infernal can come through today and win a Brawl Mirror, not only on Control Center, on Night Market, on both of those rounds. We forget about Gardens. We looked at Control Center as being a pretty lucky dice roll for the Dallas Fuel in terms of what round you start on for Lijiang.
Into Night Market, no less.
And it's both the Rhine and the Ram versions as well, though. It's not even just one of them. Both the Rhine and the Ram versions, Seoul Infernal have beaten. So I'm not too sure what's there for the Dallas Fuel in terms of what they can choose, because that's all Brawl is. Brawl is either Rhine or Ram playing the Lucio. Don't know that there's many picks left to go through. Maybe MCD could get off the Moira, but I don't even think the Moira was the issue.
I want to huff a lot of copium here, right? And find like the thinnest of silver linings ever. At least you figured out that neither of those was going to work early. Now like they've got a little bit of time to go back to the drawing board and a few more maps to play with than if they saved the Rhine for a later one maybe, but nevertheless, it's going to be a tough matchup heading into number 2 with Seoul Infernal up 1. We'll see you after the break. And welcome back, everybody. Heading into map number 2 here. Seoul Infernal up 1. And, I mean, Dallas Fuel scrambling for an answer right now as they've been beaten on not 1, but 2 rush compositions so far, Avril.
And that really hurts Dallas Fuel. I mean, that's an obvious thing to say, but when I say it hurts Dallas Fuel, it's like you need a winning matchup. If you want to win the series, there has to be something here where you can either go toe-to-toe or beat your opponent on matchup-wise. And, you know, that should have been the brawl composition for Dallas Fuel versus whatever Seoul Infernal come through. Seoul Infernal, you'd have to imagine, on paper, they should be the far less practiced, far less experienced, far less mechanically skilled players on a brawl, even though there's absolute mechanical gods on here. You know, they're mostly on the dive type heroes, and we will be seeing more dive maps and dive compositions in future, which Seoul Infernal can still lead into. But I want to bring up something we talked about during the break. You know, we did a little bit of investigation.
We zoomed, we enhanced, you know,
and,
a little CSI
yeah,
action.
we enhanced, okay, there was the skewed moment of the window that came through, which we both felt was like, it's like psychotic, right? It's like the 3v5, he just brings out a window and it wins. But beyond that, where skewed played super well on the map, especially I think on Control Center, it was impressive. The early rollout on Night Market was wild. We have to go back and check because we're like, how did 2 players, how did Edison and might have been Sparkle as well, just 2 players dying?
And then Hanbin came late, like,
yeah,
it looks so weird.
So on inspection, what actually happened was Dallas Fuel didn't even TP into window. We suspect they probably TP'd out of spawn. So you place a spawn TP, teleport forward, and they just walked to point through main. That's why they showed up late. That's why, you know, 2 players got walled off instantly and died, because Seoul Infernal actually TP'd to the point through the window or dropped on there as a 5-man, got there early, and Dallas Fuel came super late to the party, and then that just snowballed out of control in Seoul Infernal's favor. Yeah. Huge mistake from the Dallas Fuel, and there's no good reason to TP out of spawn instead of TP into window. TP in the window is absolutely the correct play here, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, must have just been some weird muscle memory, like you're just used to TPing out of spawn, they throw it out. Either way, cost them big time. They're a map down, heading into King's Row. Do you expect the rush to stay for them, or is this still going to lean into Seoul looking to try and bring that Winston to the table into the Ram?
I think Seoul will definitely play the dive. I don't think Seoul really want to. At this point, Seoul could also just play the rush if they wanted to, because they've proven that they can be better on that. But Seoul Infernal's specialty has always been on the more dive type heroes, and I think at some point I'm still expecting the Junker Queen Hanbin versus Mag Winston matchup. That's got to be showing up at some point during the series. And Seoul Infernal, they're going to lock the Rhine to start with. This is going to leave a door open for Dallas Fuel, where they can do some shenanigans. Shenanigans such as Sparkle Farah. Hanbin can absolutely play Diva to start here with, because once you see a team on King's Row A especially lock in a composition like this, they are just to exploit. All you need to do is cap A. But they're going to square up onto the actual mirror itself. They're not going to go for any sort of counter comp. Dallas Fuel want to run it back, even the Lucio Moira.
I mean, it's bold from both teams. Bold from Seoul to stick to what wasn't broken and not play the Winston on a map where it's generally considered a little bit better. Dallas, don't look to mirror. Instead, just changing over to a Reaper, wanting to throw more damage
I don't mind
into
that.
the face of Mag.
I think it's better than the sim in this matchup, actually. So
it's
in terms of like raw brawling power.
I think into the Hanzo it might be a little rough though. You still don't have any high ground control. If Mag lives eventually through just sheer force of attrition and arrows alone, MN3 should be able to see them through. It's exactly like that. There is not an answer to this Hanzo on the high ground.
Well, they're trying to force Infernal down to the low ground by playing the point immediately, and well, eventually Seoul Infernal do come to the low ground, but not before MN3 claims a couple of hits. Skew's also going to be able to do that, so a very one-sided fight. Now let's see if there's going to be any swaps. Edison snipe out a spawn for now. This isn't going to be his final hero. He's going to swap back again over towards the Reaper, and this is all due to the fact that he didn't lose any ult charge. Remember, you retain a decent amount of ult charge between the swaps. Are they going to go for a rotation here to claim some high ground, or are they just going to run back to Seoul Infernal? Because if you play Lucio and Moira, the Reaper is far more correct in that specific archetype.
See, definitely some better pathing though from the Fuel. They know they have to at least try to assault the high ground, but now you're going into Window and Dragon.
You're going to get walled.
Yeah, you're going to get... There are a number of answers that Seoul have to Dallas trying to push them up here.
And the Boop as well.
The question is just which one do they want to use? Oh, they don't have to use any of the big cooldowns. They saved the Dragon. They saved the M Matrix. I mean, Dallas are scrambling. It's a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
It was just fix it, booping Hanbin off. That's all they needed. Bliss is trying to find the same thing. Bliss wants somebody to walk through so he can get a boop.
Dragon's out. There's nobody behind Hanbin. Hanbin's been moved off again. The high ground still belongs to MN3. The whole goal is just insulate this Hanzo and insulate Skewed, and they will deliver. Yeah, I mean, wasn't hitting anything. He's on the low ground. He got booped off by like 3 different things. What do you want from the man? And maybe there's a chance they pull it back. They've managed to take out Mag. MN3 as well has been removed from its perch on high. And Dallas Fuel has somehow, I mean, dredged up a fight that honestly looks like a complete disaster to start out.
That was the back of the Blizzard. Sparkle popped down the Blizzard to the low ground. Seoul Infernal had the contest. Sound Barrier did not save Mag. I think Mag died just before Sound Barrier was applied in. MN3, by the way, going back over towards the Bastion that worked out of Control Center. And so Seoul Infernal had to give up the high ground there. Because the thing is, as much as I say, like, the Annihilation was played on point and it didn't hit anything, and Harma just let that one run through, it was scary enough that Seoul Infernal did not contest. So 2 ticks came through. Seoul Infernal gave up 2 ticks that they had to contest, and they contested into Blizzard.
Like between a rock and a cold place in the previous fight. Now, though, the Sound Barrier advantage for Dallas Fuel, one that they should be able to pretty handily use to take down the Infernal, but they throw away a pretty aggressive Death Blossom in the face of Mag that definitely wasn't necessary, and now with all those tools invested onto the main tank, they come out completely empty-handed. That 50-50 angle being played by Skewed and MN3 made it that much harder.
Well, if you got a Death Blossom, you got to play into the stack somehow, and unfortunately, Mag was right there in front of Edison's face. Shatter available, dropped them straight away, nothing to block it through. Couldn't find the back line. And for the Seoul Infernal, they recovered very quickly. MN3's damage, by the way. First life on the Bastion, already on 89%. Not that artillery is going to be a very good ultimate at all, but shows how much damage he's done.
It's already looking like he's top of the lobby by like at least 1,000 damage, if I'm reading the stats correctly. Looks to double that now with the amplification matrix in front of him. Laying down the law right now. There was not even a chance for MCD to react. Hanbin's health bar as well, struggling. If they can keep Mag upright for the next 5 seconds or so, just put that Reinhardt health bar back on top. Seoul Infernal should take this one cleanly and with ultimates to spare.
Yeah, Zesh saved the Blizzard there, really important. We could actually see a scenario where maybe Seoul Infernal attempted to use the Blizzard. Perhaps they felt like they were lacking damage, but not at all. They still had plenty of players to take down in terms of isolating them, and Zest had the damage output without the Blizzard. Now this is going to be a Blizzard versus Blizzard fight. Both teams will be ready for that one. Where the May walls are placed will definitely dictate that as well. That's not a bad wall to start out with, but not enough for Seoul Infernal to walk up.
Oh no, Edison's off early! The follow-up damage for the Blizzard is going to be significantly lacking. Mag, yeah, there's nothing to finish him off. The health bar remains stalwart. Now MN3's back, and he looks pissed.
It's Bliss. 2-piece. They've held strong. Look how many ults are still there. The only ultimate they spent is, again, the one that doesn't really have any value anyway. Just freely put the artillery. I mean, what it does do there, to give credit to the Bastion character, is if Dallas Fuel want to walk up and you're playing in a situation where Sparkle drops a Blizzard down, you put in the artillery to counter, where Dallas Fuel want to run into their own Blizzard and try and cash Seoul Infernal. That's not going to happen. Speaking of not going to happen, Fixer boops a bunch of Dallas Fuel members right out the window. Not that Dallas Fuel are going to get too much done from that angle. Less than 1 minute now to go, by the way.
I mean, less than one ultimate for Dallas Fuel heading into this. They get a sound barrier, but mind you, it was in the midst of MCD dying. Now with 45 seconds on the clock, still working with little to nothing for Fuel. Seoul Infernal are rolling in it.
And they still have to play up against a Blizzard. You know, once we get to OT, that Blizzard will win the fight for Seoul, for sure. That MCD death, by the way, that was an amplified fire strike. So 200 damage fire strike from Mag. One shot's MCD. Nothing you can do about that, unfortunately.
One good boop. Not the entire team this time for Fixa. Needs to be careful here that he doesn't overextend, because you go down with sound barrier. That is a very bad ultimate to lose. Austral, though, look to engage with what little they have, using the coalescence, fading away from the shatter. Mag's trying to peel for the team in the meantime. Make that Blizzard find some purchase on the backline as Zest throws it in and takes down Sparkle, but not much else is had. There's a chance here for Fuel to try and sustain through this with the Annihilation, but with that gone, we're working with elbow grease, spit, and sticks for both of these teams. They're gonna have to fight through the trenches to finish off one another's health bars. As Mag goes down and the spawn advantage comes to fruition, though, Dallas are looking pretty good.
Skewed down, that's huge. That's exactly the pick. Hanbin somehow snipes him down from range. Weird to see Hanbin get that kill to Skew, considering the Ram left click Not the most accurate, but that's exactly the kill you need. Skewed could have done another one of those magic ant matrices to save the day. With Mag down there, no tank to hold the front line. Seoul Infernal laid out to bear. That gives Dallas Fuel the opportunity to finally walk up. Harbin, by the way, living barely by the skin of his teeth. He was on critical HP. Pops the Annihilation just to add some extra HP, and that actually survived and helped him survive.
I mean, it was never going to be an easy fight, but there's no easy fights from here on out either. Fortunately for the Fuel, they have a Blizzard. It's just about whether or not they can land it. Throwing it into the backline, walling off Mag, who looks as good as dead alongside Fix. It's a great immortality field, though, from Skewed, and it saves Fix's life. Picks himself far through the Amplification Matrix as well. I mean, this is why this guy's got so many player of the matches, using just a sliver of the Amplification Matrix to keep Mag upright. Though Mag's health bar is still constantly under assault from the Dallas Fuel. The Shatter gives him the reprieve he needs, though, and the breathing space to put Dallas Fuel on their backs and finish off the round.
And to be fair, though, I think Dallas Fuel really recovered out of A in terms of going into the Streets phase of B. When I say recover out of A, I mean the fact that they were stuck on A spawn while on B the entire time through. They obviously capped A, but that payload did not move out of the archway past the bookshop for the entirety of B. You can take a look at the fight winning, well, this was Zest earlier on where he held onto Blizzard, got their multi-frag. Not quite the last fight. But this is what set up Seoul Infernal for another good 2 minutes here where everyone built up ultimates. But I gotta say, you know, for what an incredibly bad losing situation that was for Dallas Fuel, the fact that they managed to push to the end of B and OT gives them slight wiggle room to get some sort of a defense going.
Yeah, I mean, you're happy with it given the circumstances on A.
Yeah.
Now, though, the question is, how do they hold it? Seoul, I've looked to keep the composition the same, but now we talk about what might come out. You talked about it with Sparkle, MN3, at least for now, locking in a Pharah, but the threat of those high ground picks, whether it be the Hanzo, the Pharah, etc., is real.
He's just straight countercomp. I think the Pharah is a lot less attractive into the Ram than it is versus the Rhine. But, you know, there's the option to just straight countercomp for Seoul. However, Seoul is they're brazen today because not only have they brought out the Brawl, they're winning with the Brawl versus what should be the best Brawl team in the region. Back to the Bastion. Yeah, I like it.
I like, you know, what I've seen. Been cast in a little bit of the East for a couple days now. The attitude of it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They just keep, if it's working, they just keep running it. Bastion has proven true for Seoul. They're just going to keep running it. MN3 has been pummeling the likes of the Fuel health bars time and time again, whether in recon or in tank form. Hanbin now forced back. Seoul look to reset behind this pole and get that Bastion cooldown back up before re-engaging.
I couldn't quite move through the map though, so you know it's good damage for him in 3. What's better is though that Skewed is going to have a very fast ultimate, plenty of healing in there, decent damage output. Looks like they're going to go for the rotation through the hotel as well. Flip the map and play the window from this angle.
You know, pretty cleanly, and now there's a lot fewer places to hide from that Bastion to begin with. MN3 is dropped low and eventually taken down. It's traded for Edison. Hanbin trying to run back to the rest of the team and get away from the Amplification Matrix with Skewed, but it's got such a wide field of view that you simply cannot escape. Hanbin put in a corner by the Seoul Infernal. Simply nowhere to go, but into more damage. Bliss and Sparkle, though, give them a chance.
More than a chance, actually. I think Bliss and Sparkle, now Edison back as well, will save the day for the Dallas Fuel. Hanbin, yeah, he got caught way out. However, Infernal put so much resource into chasing down Hanbin, a lot of their players also ended up out of position. So once they decided to come back to point, Dallas Fuel were in position to find a couple of players from the Seoul Infernal that was staggered through. Now that we fully reset, this is where Dallas is strong. They have their ultimates.
An aggressive fade from the Coalescence. It looked decent to start out, but into the damage that MN3 is still offering up, it's difficult. With Blizzard out from the Dallas Fuel is going to be the last real big card that they have. There's Annihilation on deck for Hanbin, but I don't think that's going to be enough to turn this fight around, especially with MN3 going wheels up. Hanbin throws in the Annihilation regardless, though, and it's immediately, I mean, burned through. The guy was just removed from the server.
I mean, Zest took no chances there. He basically solo Blizzarded just Hanbin. Doesn't want to give any opportunity for Hanbin to carry with that Annihilation. The confidence of Seoul Infernal as well. They just chase Edison straight into the hotel. He's not going to get away with the Wraith form there. MN3 rolls up, wheels mode. Tank in the face. And Dallas Fuel their one big opportunity was to play through Coalescence, Blizzard, Annihilation, those 3 ultimates at the same time. If Seoul Infernal can survive that, and they did off the back of Fix the Sound Barrier, no one was dead inside the Blizzard. I think 2 members of Seoul Infernal got caught and frozen the Blizzard, but no one died because of the Sound Barrier.
And now Dallas are thinking about a forward hold. I'm here for it, right? When you're trying to hold this much space, it's important that you take full advantage of this choke. They don't go for the drop play, though, instead backing away to the safety of the choke point, looking to rip time off the clock. I'm in 3 to try and dislodge them. It's going to pop this Bastion ultimate. Let's manage to hit Sparkle and force out an ice block. A not insignificant cooldown. The third one lands as well, chunking out the remaining half of the health bar. I mean, look, we can talk all we want about the Bastion pick, cheese, this, that, how good the ultimate is. This Death Blossom, though, turned the entire fight around in the face of it.
Oh my god, Edison was on 1 HP. I don't know if you caught that. Edison survived on 1 HP, saved by the Sound Barrier Bliss. He was solo shattered by Mag, who didn't fully commit to killing Edison. Mag turned around. I think he was trying to block damage from the rear. And as soon as he did that, and he failed to kill Edison as he just survives on 1 HP with the Sound Barrier, Edison then flips the fight with the Death Blossom. Huge for Dallas Fuel.
A moment's lapse for Seoul is punished immediately by the team in blue. Now they look to continue to pummel onto the likes of the Seoul Infernal. Full respawn with the Blizzard, but this feels far too late to actually get anything done.
Seoul Infernal half committed into that fight, so the Blizzard didn't see the Sound Barrier. This is very much needed time buyback from the Dallas Fuel. Are they going to spawn camp there? Looks like they are going to go for a spawn camp. Very interesting. They have the speed to roll back if they need to, which they might do now as they see the Seoul Infernal do the long rotation. Dallas Fuel do the short rotation and meet up in the alleyway.
Well, now having wrapped Hanbin down to half HP, Dallas playing this very patiently. They've adapted to the Bastion quite well. Now they're completely cornered. Blizzard in quite a small room. I mean, there's very few ways you actually ever get away from that one. Dallas continue the stalwart hold.
Well played by Sparkle there. Multiple members caught by that Blizzard. That's worth the Sound Barrier down. And this is where, for Seoul Infernal, see the tails part of that coin land where the supports will try and clutch up by using both support ultimates. Obviously, the Sound Barrier is expected. Skewed will throw in that Ant Matrix to try and maybe out-damage or get some extra healing in. With 3 members frozen up inside the bookshop, in the side rooms with no other support available, Dallas Fuel will get the cleanups. So this is the first major slowdown. I mean, Seoul Infernal have lost a lot of time now.
Death Blossom again, this time just as big for Edison. This time on the engage, though. To trade it back, a great wall, though. Actually keeps most of his team alive. He still, though, takes down the Mei. There's a chance here if you can land the charge. Man. Oh my god, Mag. There's no way. There's no way. Gets to the health back. Can you charge out? Can you maybe get away? Is skewed in LOS? Oh, the lamp lands just a pixel late. Mag just about went Super Saiyan.
Yeah,
that was insane.
It was almost the biggest Ryan clutch I've ever seen. He's nearly there. He just needed to get out alive, and he nearly got out alive as well. But he does enough damage that it forces Fuel back. Look at Fuel's position now. They had to fully reset off the back of that one as well. So we've headed back to neutral territory. Seoul Infernal can actually touch the payload for the first time in a while.
Yeah, but it's immediately met with the Sound Barrier and Annihilation on the other end. They simply don't have an answer to this in terms of ultimates. 12 seconds on the clock. Seoul Infernal needs something. A Blizzard late into the fight. Down 2 members. There's no DPS to follow up on this. They can take down MCD. Where are the rest of the picks going to come from? Seemingly nowhere. The Dallas Fuel have locked up Kings Row and evened out the series.
Yeah, they've redeemed themselves in this brawl matchup nicely. And that, again, we have to zoom back to the fact that Dallas Fuel struggled to get any distance on B. But we talked about the fact that in the overtime, the amount of distance that Dallas Fuel did get at the end of B, that was significant. That's why I was talking about it, because that gives them a shot in the dark to actually have a defensible position. If they did not get that distance on their own attack, as much as they did in the OT, this would have been Seoul Infernal's map for sure. But Dallas Fuel, once they get that distance on B, on their own defense, they have that length to play through. Sparkle starts to drop in some really nicely placed Blizzards, walls off a couple of players. Hanbin, ever vigilant, low amount of deaths, doesn't really die on this Ramatra, holds on steadfast. Edison, we're starting to see some really good Death Blossoms now on that defensive side, has some good hiding angles. Again, a huge fight to win for Edison was when he was 1 HP, survived by the Sound Barrier, and he flips the fight on his own. humongous. From that point onwards, I felt like the tempo has shifted in Dallas's favor.
Yeah, alongside individual play, we're seeing that hive mind continue to grow. The creativity and how they're taking these engagements is phenomenal. But they're going to have to keep it up. Heading into map number 3, it's only getting more difficult for the Fuel. And welcome back, everybody. We're 2 maps in, but it's turning out to be quite the heater between the Fuel and the Seoul Infernal, and there's a lot more to go, and I think those fans are hoping for more to go, especially for the Fuel. We're coming hot off the heels of a big King's Row win, and now I've got to play into the likes of the Infernal on Rialto.
And although I don't think we were going to get another 2 5 mappers here after the first 2 we got, this one's going at least 4. You come into a 1-1 equal tied scoreline going to map 3, as you say, and beyond that, Dallas Field, I think, gaining back a bit of confidence because they were left lacking after Lijiang Tower, losing in the Brawl matchup. Both versions, the Rhine and also the Ramacha versions, not looking great for the Dallas Field on Lijiang. Coming back into Kings Row, running it back again, believing in their ability to be able to win with this, because if they can't win on that Brawl composition, it's not looking good for the rest of the series here. And now Dallas Field will have some real hope left. We have to pull through, maybe get this win versus the Seoul Infernal. Rialto's going to be a very different map, though. That is the choice of the Seoul Infernal, and it's a map choice that drags the Dallas Field very far away from, I think, Brawl. This is a Diva-favored map, a Dive-favored map. Sure, Harvick can definitely go the Diva here, which is one of his specialties, but it takes Dallas Field away from the rest of the other heroes they want to play. You're not going to have Lucio Mori here.
Yeah, I think Seoul just want to change the game entirely. Flip the board and try and reset things, which is understandable. One of their big trump cards in that last matchup was the Bastion, and Dallas seemed to have kind of figured it out, right? There's a reason why it had fallen out in the West. It's because teams had kind of figured out the counterplay. Dallas figured out just as quickly. Edison's Reaper doing a big part in that, with the not just the damage he was putting out, but the impact he was finding with an ultimate that can be very difficult to find impact with at times.
And we saw at least one complete zero-man ult from the Death Blossom as well. I think that was the one that he got shattered from. Which, to be fair, you got shattered. But, yeah, I mean, my point is, we saw at least one blank ult there, and he still has an ult efficiency of 4, which is 4 out of 5 members per ultimate. So he landed some very big Death Blossoms towards the back end that brought the Dallas Field back around. That, and I think the Sparkle Blizzards really pulled the Dallas Field into contention for victory on Kings Row. They laid out the Golden Road a little bit earlier, put the bricks down. Just that one link to B was enough. Now we'll see what's enough on Rialto, as I'm expecting different comps out of these two teams. Very dive favor map. I think it would be really wacky for Dallas Field to still remain on Lucio Mori here.
Yeah, it's incredibly unlikely. I mean, a lot of teams in the West, what we're seeing out of them is double flex support, and then you run the Diva to kind of peel for it and maintain that high ground presence. Snipers as well come into the fold, something that would give an entirely different texture to this series. It is entirely different from what we expected earlier. You talked about it. It is still in the comfort zone for Dallas tanks-wise. As far as all the other players on the roster, they've got their work cut out for them. I do gotta hand it, though, to Hanbin, who did some work on Kings Row. He can sit and rest for a moment now, as the pressure's not as much on him anymore.
Well, I mean, playing Diva here, I think, is still going to be a huge win condition that Dallas Field need to lean into. That is, I think, by far the strongest tank pick for this map. Strong enough that Mag would even have to consider it, but I'm pretty sure Mag will just play the Winston here.
Wrecking Ball is an option. We talked about it a while before when we were watching the previous matches on the broadcast, but Seoul Infernal have a whole host of tanks they could offer up.
So, you talked about the Diva double flex here. One of the key pickups that I think is important is MCD's playing his other good flex support here, which is the Zen. And Bliss has shown a decent amount of Ana in contenders when he was on O2, so we know of the Blizzard the Bliss Ana. That's a known quantity. It's not a surprise pick. So I think this is decent from Dallas Field in terms of what they're choosing. And the reason Edison goes Torb is I think they were expecting the Seoul Infernal dive comp, and Edison's just going to be playing anti-dive. But with the fact that Seoul Infernal decided, with that snipe from M3, by the way, that Seoul Infernal decided to play a pseudo brawl off Mag's Ram, things might not go the way Dallas Field want.
Yeah, if you're backline, I mean, the whole point of the Diva is to keep those double flex boards insulated and keep them alive. If you can keep them alive, you should find enough value to win. But when you're down that Tracer, when you're down that flank, and that extra pressure to apply to Mag, the card's just going to continue to move forward because there's no threat to that tank's health bar. Hanbin simply cannot take that fight on low ground and allow Skewed and MN3 complete control of the high ground. You're trying to split the Diva's attention is what that Dallas Fuel are trying to do, and they're doing so beautifully. Hanbin simply can't cover all the angles.
No, they're being run a marker at the moment. M3's got 2 down himself, making number 3. Sparkle can't catch a break. M3's on his hair. That will be the cap. Look how far the payload's pushed. Mag wasn't even really part of that fight. I think that was all on M3. A little bit of a zest and fixture on the sidelines as well. You saw how split up the Dallas Fuel attention was. They were inside like the grass courtyard, not even the main one. Fixer on the big flank. I think he's on attacking side, and he was on a humongous flank, backed by Zest. And as soon as you open up the angles, M3 had all the shots he needed. Mag, chilling on the payload, pushing it by himself.
Such a difficult position for Seoul to play. They look to continue the escapade forward. time, it should be, in theory, a little bit less difficult, right? Controlling this high ground to the Ramatra feels a little bit more doable, especially when you've got a dragon coming through on the high ground. I love that lineup as well. That seemed custom made by MN3. It's definitely early, but it's cool. I'll hand it to him.
The problem is, look at what the payload is. The payload is so far behind that as you put in that Dragon Strike, you're not actually taking that space yet. Dallas Fuel can recontest for that high ground. So this payload positioning is where I'd like to see the Dragon Strike instead, but that moment has passed us already. There's still other ultimates to use as we look towards Annihilation, window from Skewed as well. Zest on the flank now, and this is the strategy, right? Fixer and Zest playing this Kariko Tracer flanking duo, and it's always safe for Fixer because he'll get the cooldown back on the teleport and just teleport away if he's in trouble.
With the pulse bomb looming over their heads, they have to be so careful. They want to try and play proactive. And I like this from the Fuel. Choosing one of the directions that the Seoul Infernal are pulling them in, looking for the weakest member. Unfortunately, they haven't found the weakest member. Mag had plenty to work with there in the Annihilation to keep himself upright and keep themselves in this fight. And for the Seoul Infernal, that's the most important thing, right? Stay alive, maintain this high ground, and keep Mag's health bar topped up.
MN3 is on a tear once again, 3-piece there, and he just snipes down Harbin. One key thing to consider is that MCD was late on the trans. So you did see the Transcendence pull through, but it was as the mech went down. So he needed to save the mech. Harbin had lost the self-destruct already. You have to keep Harbin on that fight, and MCD just waited too long to pull the trigger. Pulls the trigger when the mech is down, and now all you've got left to save is a Baby Diva who just gets one shot by MN3. As the comps start to change now, MCD onto the Kariko and Harbin onto the Ram. So we're nearly onto a mirror matchup.
Oh no. Whew. Fortunately,
Suzu, I think.
Suzu or recalled, one of the two. Either way, that's Fuel on the back foot. The amazing thing, though, is that for the Seoul Infernal, this has only been 2 fights. They won 2 fights and are 90% of the way through the map, Avril. This is criminal, and Fixa looks to continue the bamboozlery, the thievement. Ripped away from the pockets of Dallas Fuel has this map been. And in 3 fights flat, we have covered all, 80 meters of Rialto that there is to cover?
Staggers. And there's more staggers as well. It doesn't end here. I don't know how Zest gets called out, but that's a huge kill. That will slow things down for the Dallas Fuel retake. They need more members here. This is where Dallas Fuel can definitely dig the heels in, but if Harbin goes down again, it's not looking good.
Oh, it's only getting worse. Edison down. Seoul Infernal. I mean, they've cruised through this map. I'm not even sure they're aware of the Dallas Fuel's presence. I think they felt a little bump underneath the cart, a little speed bump, and that it's 3.5. I'm not even gonna give you a stagger. It's like a full fight. It's 3.5.
They did get a bunch of respawns. MCD was the end of, I would say, fight 3. MCD was kind of the end of that one. There's some real impact there as well. MCD, because he had a late death. You see Harbin dying on that final fight number 4 that I'm saying here. With MCD dead, he's not there to Suzu Harbin on low HP. If the Suzu was there, Harbin might have still survived the burst. This is the moment here. So, okay, I was saying that MCD just doesn't save Harbin, but Harbin also flies super far away. So we didn't get to see that in real time, and now we're seeing MN3 in the replay just completely annihilate. So Harbin dives super deep on the high ground. MCD's like, I can trance to save you, but you're like really far away as well. So those two did not connect well in what the play was. Harbin gets demeched. Trance comes in to save not even a Baby Diva because the Baby Diva just gets one shot. And that point's over from there. And that was only fight number 2.
This is absurd, but I want to point out one thing that we've seen time and time again is this value from MN3. Obviously, the pop-offs, the 4Ks and the kill feeds are nice, but they're being delivered by Seoul Infernal hand over fist to him because he's just completely uncontested on these high grounds. Like, you give a Hanzo enough time. I always talk about my infinite Hanzo theorem, right? Enough arrows, it doesn't matter how good the Hanzo is. One of them's gonna get a kill. And turns out MN3 is pretty good at doing that if you just give him enough time.
And you're about to see him on an even better hero. One of MN3's, I think, 2 most famous heroes are definitely the Ashe and the Widowmaker. So this should even be better than the Hanzo. Fun fact for you, by the way, Seoul Infernal, Zest, Mag, and Skewed haven't died yet. 3 players deathless. MN3 and Fixer have only died once. So 2 total deaths on the entire Seoul Infernal, which means Dallas Fuel on that entire defense only got 2 final blows.
That's absolutely insane. To add on to the...
What? That's a mistake.
Oh, Edison. Yeah, Edison's having a laugh about that one. Okay. Okay, it happens to the best of us.
Hook mistakes, just, Listen, he saw...
Sparkle joins the club.
He saw, who was it? He sang Run Into the Waters on Rialto earlier today for NA. He's like, I'll do it on Widowmaker. Yeah. Sparkle's like, I'll do it on Tracer. It's all good. Maybe Sparkle's resetting. That's maybe different, but Edison just messed up a hook shot for sure.
It's okay. It's a quick reset at the very least. Spawn's close. Notably, Seoul Infernal are on something that isn't the rush or the brawl for the first time in the entire series, putting Mag on that Diva. It's so good for this map. We talked about the flexible, but they're not even going to opt for that. Keeping the break, keeping that main support to protect the Ana, and just wanting to put a lot of the focus on keeping MN3 and Skewed alive, which, to be fair, have probably been the two most impactful players for the Seoul Infernal in this match.
I feel bad for Edison in this matchup, not because he's going up against MN3, although that is pretty tough, but defending Widowmaker has far better angles than attacking Widowmaker here. So you are on the back foot for sure if you are Edison. Now further, as a team, losing Bliss, that's just going to be a time loss, a little bit of positional loss. Not that Fuel have much positioning to start with.
We'll wait for that one member to come back up in Bliss. But until then, time continues to get ripped off the clock. We're at 2 minutes. Time's ticking down, and I'm not sure we have too much to spare here for the Fuel. Especially in a map following one where, I mean, you had a pretty solid performance on Kings. Gotta find a little bit more of that magic and being able to creatively path around the composition that Seoul is offering up to them, but it's just not happening. They try to path beneath them, eat an anti-nade that forces out Transcendence, and that gets away here. It's beyond clean. Not only that, but they layered the rally. It's gone from bad to worse for the Fuel as they throw in a pulse bomb. All right, just keep pressing Qs, guys. Maybe we'll win. Maybe we'll win. No, you won't. Fuel, you've got to find a way to reset here. But after having used both of your support ultimates, it's not going to be easy.
Well, Bliss used the rally first. The reason why MCD pops Trance is because he got naded. And the rally isn't going to be enough to save MCD, so he was forced to use that to not die. Speaking of rallies, it's Fix's turn. But he gets purple this time around.
I mean, I don't want to be a doomer, but that fight completely tanked their ult economy. I mean, that is potentially just map pressure being applied by Seoul Infernal now. Is,
I mean,
Fuel's backs are against the wall with 60 seconds on the clock.
One of the ways you can gain map control here, Sparkle needs to do a big flank. We can put pressure on Edison. However, the issue is fairly certain that Zest has Sparkle marked. So anytime Sparkle makes a move, Zest should be able to cover him. There it is finally. Sparkle putting pressure. That's what they needed. They needed Sparkle on MN3.
They get need on the pulse in the meantime as well. A clean fight. And that was Fuel off the back of just a clean engagement from Sparkle.
And with that, the frags coming quick. I mean, that was one kill into several straight away. Zest having his pulse bomb into the backside. Is that what we're going to see? This is the Edison just dying. Like I said, it's a hook shot mistake. Exactly what I suspected it to be. Because that's really the only way that you should die.
Oh,
this
no!
was a mistake. Sparkle thought he was going to triple blink. I thought Sparkle was resetting. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. No,
I'm so glad the observers got that. That's the comedy I needed. Dallas Fuel, though. No time for laughs. They got 4 seconds on the clock, and not too many ways through this fight. Though those double support ultimates are coming back online. They started off with the rally. They don't want to use the Transcendence to win this fight, but Seoul would love nothing more than to force them to use such a critical ultimate. And with taking down Bliss, all of a sudden, that becomes a reality. MCD pops the Transcendence, but that also means the fight's basically on a timer. That Zen heal, that Orb of Harmony is not particularly significant. Fortunately for them, though, they do close it down before the Transcendence ends.
MCD, okay, he is going to get saved by Mag. I was going to say he's up for the next death if Armin can just fly at him. And demecking and killing the Baby Diva and Mag, I think, was the catalyst for winning that fight for this Dallas Fuel. Removing the tank out of the way. Start opening things up for Harmon to walk forward. Bliss goes down. MCD still has a trance as an insurance policy. And as you say, if the fight goes longer, the Zen Orb won't be enough. But the fight does not go longer. It ends fairly quickly after the Transcendence. And now Dallas Fuel. Work cut out for them. Look, they're not going to get a good time back here, if at all. They might not even finish the map, but that's the distance they got to get.
Forget finishing the map. We gotta think fight by fight, Avril. Dallas Fuel can only think a few seconds ahead when their time bank's this low. Seoul Infernal stand in front of them, rally in hand, and a kill as well for MN3. Giving Edison the comeuppance.
I don't think Edison's killed MN3 yet. It's only been MN3 killing Edison. The angles are slightly better for Edison now, but as the fight continues, rally from Fixer, Seoul Infernal walk up. Sparkle pulse for some reason. I'm not too sure about that, but he just dies for it.
Clean engagement from Seoul, just using that rally, finishing off the kills, playing it safe. They know they've got an ult economy advantage. If they can keep winning these one ult at a time, they're in a great place.
Now they reset fully back. I mean, they lose a full team fight. Everyone gets wiped. Seoul Infernal have major map control now. Especially with the fact that Skewed and M3 can play from high ground. M3 yet to lose a Widow battle. Oh, there it is.
Wow.
Finally,
I feel like
Edison
you're to
gets him.
blame for that one. That's a caster curse if I've ever heard
I
one.
ain't playing the game. I'm not buying that. I ain't bad Pachamari.
Yeah, you know what? Not many people are. Dallas Fuel, though, storm forward with a pick in their sails. M3 should be back in a couple seconds here, though, and it's already back up to a 5v5. Dallas Fuel have got to do it all over again, and MN3 wants a sweet revenge. Holds the sights for the final moments of the fight, though. With 15 seconds on the clock, Fuel have to make it work here. They've got double support ultimate again. Edison finds an opener on his Zest, though, and that's exactly what they were looking for. But how do they apply pressure to this cart within the next 5 seconds? They've already popped that rally. Now Hanbin's forced to drop, and they still haven't fully claimed this high ground control yet. MCD's trying to peek out and find value from it, but Seoul are not going to let this go. Not into the Dark Knight, not easily. They throw in a pulse bomb, punish Sparkle, force the Transcendence out, and put Dallas Fuel's backs against the wall. They fight valiantly, though, away from that which they were pressed. Dallas Fuel still hammer through the health bars of the Seoul Infernal to keep the cart moving.
Yes. Really important they get Mag down there. That is a kill that if they don't get, would have stalled out the payload for a little bit longer. And once more, Dallas Fuel in OT. They'll successfully clutch it through off the back of the Bliss rally. If that's how you force positioning, you were asking, how do they actually walk up here? How do they force the higher ground? How do they get any sort of positioning? You rallied from Bliss. That's your new tank alongside Diva running in with Hanbin. You start to really be able to put the pressure onto Seoul Infernal. You see how much ground Bliss can take. Edison also sniping out Zest at the start of that fight was super important for controlling flanks. Now, in the last minute, he finished his map in OT. Dallas Fuel going to go back to where they started the series on. Lucio and Moria, the Ramatra on Hanbin.
And Seoul still offer up this Bastion. I mentioned it earlier, but I think Dallas have kind of figured out how to play against this cooldown pretty effectively. They practiced a few iterations of
MCD
walking into it at different times, but once they got it locked down, it seemed pretty certain. So I'm not sure how well the Bastion is going to work out within this iteration, but they tried anyways. Seoul Infernal look to hold this doorway, and already it's not going well. Bliss on the Zest?
That's a wild kill.
Yeah.
Not something you'd normally see. Zest, was he trying to do a big flank there, and Bliss just pops in the face? Not too sure, but that's going to force Seoul Infernal backwards. I mean, if Dallas were going to clutch the OT, this is what it looks like.
And they're building up support ultimates in the meantime. Cart continues forward, almost up to an Annihilation and Nano Boost. They might have the tools to match Seoul come this next engagement, but they've got to get through a few things first, notably
Bliss
the pulse
again,
bomb
how?
from Zest, who's lurking in the backline. MCD can sniff him out from a mile away, though. Knows the play is coming from the Tracer, avoids it beautifully while the rest of his team looks to take down the respawning members of the Seoul Infernal. Now they just cling on, using a rally desperately to keep themselves alive, but it seems inevitable at this point. The Dallas Fuel are going to see the end of Rialto. The question is, can they see through it, the finish line? Annihilation popped on the other side, brings Seoul back up to 5 members, Sparkle down, Dallas to 4. The numbers continue to dwindle for either end, though, as Seoul bleed red in the kill feed, and the Dallas Fuel, by the grace of whatever they believe in, have seen every last centimeter of Rialto.
Just like it says in the subtitling of their parent org, brick by brick for the Dallas Fuel here, they move forward slowly but surely, just clutching through in the OT. What has Bliss been doing? How does he get 2 solo back-to-back kill? He gets Zest out of the blue. No idea how he gets that kill. Then who does he kill after that? He gets, was it Skewed or somebody? He gets another player in just a solo frag. Bliss just delivers these individual picks on the Lucio, which enables the 5 versus 4. Dallas Fuel, they keep shoving in, snowballing their way through, and this is a fresh comp, by the way. Dallas Fuel swapped off their Diva composition onto this Ramatra composition, where MCD then forgoes the more in favor of the Ana. Have some more staying power off the back of that Nano. Sparkle and Edison build up ultimates between the Death Blossom and the Blizzard to finish off the map. And look, it's still extremely difficult. 1 minute to 4:30. Oh, That is a tough battle.
Job's not
Again,
done,
for the
that's
Dallas
sure.
Fuel, if they can build that wall brick by brick, if they can just slowly inch their way forward, it is still possible. But my goodness, this is going to be hard. Dallas Fuel, I'm going to set the standard here. They have to cap A. If Dallas Fuel don't cap A, I don't think there's any shot.
It's crazy to think that the job could not be done after all the work they put in. You finish that push, you sit back, you pull your hand away from the keyboard and mouse, you breathe a sigh of relief, only to realize that the Seoul Infernal still stand in front of you, and A was not a highlight for the Fuel in their push, to say the least.
I actually like the Dallas Fuel are not going to go for this auto battle anymore. That did not go well for Edison for the most part, especially not on A. The better chance of breaking the Seoul Infernal defense is to play flankers, Sombra Tracer, put pressure on the back line, start hacking out MN3, take him down first, take some map control, then cap after that.
They've absorbed the pressure from the Seoul Infernal quite admirably for now, closing the gap slowly but surely, using the time where they don't need to be touching this payload for overtime quite wisely to wrap around the likes of the Seoul Infernal. In fact, they've given MCD high ground. What a sick little rotation they've offered up. Now Mag has to drop or try to contest this cart from a weird angle, but the second this cart rounds the corner, it is going to be a really uncomfortable place for the Seoul Infernal to be. MCD, though, does fall from his perch on the high ground. Mag, though, demeched is a worthy trade for the Dallas Fuel to take. Now it's just about finishing off health bars. Dallas should be able to finish this one. MN3 has other plans, so MN3 has other plans, though! Shuts down the Dallas Fuel, denies an A cap.
3 swift headshots coming through from MN3. If Bren were here, he would say a very specific line for a red team with the Widowmaker shooting the way he is currently. For the Seoul Infernal, I think they did the deed as soon as MCD and Bliss were down. You trade the entire backline of the Dallas Fuel for Mag's mech. Worthwhile trade. No supports on Dallas Fuel, even with Mag out of the picture. Very difficult, in fact. Basically impossible for the Dallas Fuel to continue pushing on forward. And as I mentioned earlier, I think the minimum standard here for Dallas to cap A, because they don't have A, and they're not even fully through A. This is going to be way too difficult. Here we go. Headshot. After headshot. After headshot. What?
I mean, you talk about the trade for Mag for the backline, and like it is worth, but the fight was like far from over. MN3 really had to do the legwork there at the end, but if anybody's gonna deliver, I suppose MN3 is probably the guy.
And as I mentioned earlier, you thought MN3 Hanzo was good. He is far more
terrifying.
Proficient on the Widowmaker. I mean, he is far more well known for the Widowmaker than he is on the Hanzo. MN3 unleashed in 2023 for sure. Seoul Infernal now in 4 minutes 30. Just have to get, I think, slightly over halfway on A. Which, yeah, there it is. About 2/3 of their way through. I respect that Edison has opted into the Widowmaker here. Again, defensive Widowmaker, better angles and offense, so Edison will feel better about this duel to start with. Like, good enough that MN3 hasn't gone to the Widow just yet. I don't know that he will actually either. We'll see.
Wait, this time on the clock, I actually kind of like the Hanzo a little bit more. Because what you're looking for is kind of just a stray pick. You're looking for anything. You have plenty of time to get it. Hanzo, like I mentioned earlier, is a character, even for the best of Hanzos, that just relies on time. You need time to find the opportunities for those arrows to hit heads. They're not necessarily found, but given. There's plenty of time for the Dallas Fuel to give opportunities for those arrows to connect, or Zest to connect on the Tracer. Fixo avoids getting traded for a moment, but MC defends the high ground valiantly. Now, 4 versus 4. We're effectively playing Overwatch 3 here for a moment. Unbin still got control of that high ground, though, and that's the most critical point for the Fuel to hold on to.
Halo's just about there, though. Fuel, this is it. They're going to have to contest. Keep contesting for the rest of the map now. Bliss onto Zest is a decent start. Bliss has managed to solo kill Zest a couple of times now on different heroes, in different matchups. That'll buy a bit of time. That'll force Seoul Infernal back. Put some respect onto Dallas. Allow time for Sparkle to make some moves to get this pulse bomb off.
Pulse bomb almost up for Sparkle. Blink towards that high ground. There's not a diva in the way of them trying to land it. Call's already been forced, though. You gotta be careful not to get picked again. Pulse bomb out. Blinks as well. Used by Zest.
Window time.
Seoul continue the push, but there is just nothing being found from this high ground. Hanbin's playing phenomenally up here to just sustain through it.
This is a reset for sure. Seoul Infernal lose all ground there because Mag also dies. Seoul Infernal cannot hold the high ground. And Dallas Fuel are about to be on all 5 ultimates. If there is a good defense, if there is a world the Dallas Fuel defense can hold, it's off the back of a 5 ultimate scenario for the Dallas Fuel, where they have to ration this one out for 2 minutes and 20 roughly. Seoul Infernal though, looking towards Annihilation, very strong here. Trance is going to be good enough. I think Transcendence will be good enough to survive up against the Annihilation, so it's 1 ultimate covered. Then you just got to deal with the Amp Matrix, which Edison should cover with an EMP. EMP can just delete that ultimate.
EMP out, an attempted dive by Fuel. I'm not sure how much I like this play. They tried to be proactive when they've been holding this whole time, but it finally works. The Pulse Bomb takes down Skewed, the critical member of the Seoul Infernal thus far in the match. Seoul are throwing everything in, though. It's the kitchen sink. MCD, though, counters it all with the Transcendence. Annihilation, Nano, Rally, all fall short of the all-powerful ultimate that Zenyatta offers. Seoul Infernal, though, they just managed to out-sustain it. Can Dallas get enough members back? Can they scramble the fighters enough to contest this point? Hanbin flying like a goddamn madman with this defense matrix, but it's simply not enough. The Seoul Infernal's time bank that they said earlier was just indomitable.
Dallas needed 1 more fight, and this is why they needed to have finished A. If they can finish A, or at least get to the end of A, they would have had that 1 more fight. Because in that scenario, Dallas Fuel lost both Bliss and MCD. MCD, the Transcendence was good, but he was forced to the low ground. And once the Transcendence is finished, as the only support alive, chilling on the payload as a Soul Zenyatta, you are gone. And if you're gone as a Zenyatta and there's no other supports, your team can't hold. Nothing left. In another scenario where there's more fights left remaining, Dallas Fuel reset, play for the final fight on A, still a winnable defense for the Dallas Fuel, even in a full hold scenario where they have to hold the entirety of A. But just the distance they got in their time bank was just so poor. If they got a little bit more than that, I think it's possible. But for Dallas Fuel, too far this time. A bridge too far, I think, for the Dallas Fuel.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Seoul Infernal taking the reins of the series 2-1 after Dallas Fuel. I have put in, quite frankly, an obscene amount of work on Rialto to come up just short in overtime. Now they've got even more work to do in front of them and even less energy to do it. Avril, this is how you have to do things in the knockout stage. It does not get easier. It only gets more difficult, and the longer we go in this series, the worse it gets for the Fuel. But they've got a map to offer up to us to try and bring this thing back into their control.
You know, I feel surprisingly close for what is when you compare the time banks 1 minute versus 4:30, it should be a lot more one-sided for the side of the Seoul Infernal, but even just the 1 minute, okay, the distance as mentioned wasn't far enough, but what was available for Fuel to defend, they really pulled, you know, Seoul Dynasty to the distance in terms of how successful that defense was going. I mean, they were winning enough defensive fights that they had 5 ultimates at one point. Couldn't successfully, I think, execute to actually win the following fight. They played through all 5 ultimates and still ended up losing.
One of those horseshoes and hand grenade situations, you know?
And I just think they needed one more fight. I think one more fight would have been so good for the Dallas Fuel. It really should not be that close for how better Seoul Infernal have been in terms of the stats, in terms of the 1v1s we've seen from the stats here, in terms of the time bank differential. The fact that Dallas Fuel even cap all throughout Real to finish the entire map and OT the entire distance is phenomenal. Very few teams can cap C on 130. That really shouldn't be there. M3, I think, is the play to talk about at the moment. I mean, everything speaks for itself. He's winning across the board in terms of the Widowmaker stats. I don't think it's any surprise at all.
I think we're comparing him to the wrong player. That's the issue here, Avril. We need to compare him to Bliss on the other side. Because what was Bliss on that last map? I mean, first pick after first pick from the main support position was kind of wild to see, but could come up big as we head into Coliseum.
Well, the one sigh of relief that Dallas will have is that M3 can't play Widowmaker here. Could still play the Hanzo, and if that's even in the Brawl Mirror, I think this is where we're going to get Brawl Mirror. I mean, I was thinking Jungle Queen versus Winston for this matchup, for not necessarily on this map, but between these two teams. But the further we go in the series, the less likely it's going to come through. I think every single scenario where, you know, you'd imagine, okay, this is where finally the Seoul Infernal will play the dive. They're just going to choose to play the Brawl instead, knowing that the Dallas Fuel will match them on it. And then Seoul Infernal, with a little bit of confidence, who know that they can already beat the Dallas Fuel on the Brawl Mirror, will fight it through. And Coliseum, I think, is one of those maps.
Yeah, map 1 is definitely the most convincing of the wins so far for the Seoul Infernal. Again, I'm curious to see if they lock in the Hanzo, if they continue to kind of hammer on the door here with the Bastion pick that they brought out time and time again. I'm a little done with the Bastion pick. It was fun for a bit. Dallas looked caught off guard, but they seem to have recovered quite nicely from it. And especially if they have a compositional change here, I think they'd be able to deal with it quite readily. So as M3 offers up a Sojourn, Seoul Infernal look to roll out possibly on something completely different. Mag should be... Mag's not changing. Mag's not changing, Avril.
That's different. To be fair, I mean, I don't know what they expect Dallas Fuel to come through on, but Dallas Fuel are on the Jungle Queen. I think Dallas Fuel thought that Infernal were going to go for a dive. Infernal are going for a dive, but it's not the Winston dive. Not too sure how the Doomfist plays into the Jungle Queen. It will still be not the most favorable matchup. Doomfist has a decent amount more mobility than a Winston does, so there is that.
It's a lot better than the Winston. You can punch the Carnage, you can avoid the knives a lot easier. You eat less chunk damage from the shotgun because you have a smaller hitbox, which is actually really notable.
But you can also
in a lot of situations
get away. You can also get away from the knife pull because you got 2 sets of mobility instead of just the leap.
Exactly.
That is important.
Yeah. The Doomfist into Junker Queen is pretty good, at least on paper.
However, Doomfist as a hero generally in this meta is not good, so that's
also true. The balancing factor, as it always will be. But nevertheless, I do like it for Mag. It's a creative option that Seoul are bringing out. And I think what they could use right now is a bit of creativity. They did get the map win in the last one, but to call it a clean one would be to make a fool of yourself.
I actually think they would have won if they just went Ram. If they just went Ram to start with or even a Rhine, this would be a bad matchup for Harmbin, especially with Harmbin on Queen. Mag got to be careful here. Maybe not just Mag, but M3.
Sojourn's down. This as well, though, gets caught off a little too far forward. We traded all the way down to a 3 versus 3. This card is not moving anywhere.
Sparkle Reaper, question mark. Now on Tracer. M3 swapping off as well. Both teams foregoing the Sojourn.
M3 back on his business with the Hanzo, but it's Hanbin continuing forward. This is Hanzo territory now. Junker Queen has been one of the best picks for Hanbin over the past year, and still right now he's showing us why that this is the hero that will win something for Dallas Fuel if they can win this map and take us to map 5.
I love this adaptation though from Seoul. The Ana Kiriko is something that, at least in the West, we've seen a ton of as of late. And when there's no threat to it from the Dallas Fuel, Sparkle can't really contest it on his own. It offers up a lot of support to Mag that is desperately needed. Now Hanbin posturing, looking for an opportunity, pulse bomb out. Looks to shut down the engagement, but they aren't successful in doing so. The speed is too much, and M3 doesn't have a way out. The one thing that Sportline doesn't offer is speed to run away from the Junker Queen.
It'll be a pullback. Okay, yeah, but as we mentioned earlier, Mag has 2 ways to get out of that. Sparkle wants 2 kills already, make it a 3rd coming on through, and this is Dallas Fuel pushing a little bit deeper into Seoul Infernal territory. Edison with a swap onto Sombra now, so getting slightly towards more of a double. I actually like the Reaper. I think the Reaper into the Doom is decent. If you want to hack out Mag, if you want to really take down Mag, I guess the hack to Mag will do an even better job. The one thing Dallas Fuel can do quite comfortably, it's to play extremely quickly with a Lucio Moira composition. Rush Hanbin in there, put Sparkle in the driver's seat as well. And that will really put the pressure on the Seoul Infernal backline.
First of these teams to take away a clean fight is going to pick up a significant lead in progress. Neither of them have really managed to put a dent in it. Dallas making more progress, but more is a very relative term. We're talking about Coliseum. Seoul with the storm forward though now.
Oh, Hanbin
The hack of their own. Hanbin immediately melted down by the likes of Skewed and Fixa, who again are offering up a lot of bonus damage, running double flex support like this, getting another one onto Edison as well. They saw Bliss getting his hands dirty in the last map and said, I want some of that action.
That is, by the way, Hanbin's first death of the map so far in 3.5 minutes, nearly 4. Dallas Fuel instantly have to give up so much ground. The one thing that's lacking about the fact that Dallas have kind of won early fights is they didn't get distance, and they look at the distance now.
Oh,
very easy overtaken. They'll get some more.
I mean, this is a sick dive.
Rampage.
They completely get away from it. Yeah, the Rampage, you want to get on the back line, but I mean, into the Suzu, Rampage probably just doesn't find any value ever, right? And so you're kind of just throwing yourself willingly into the enemy backline, and because your healing gets shut off the second that Suzu hits the ground, there's nothing to keep you alive. It was a questionable choice by Hanbin, who hadn't gone down on the Junker Queen up until that last moment, but has died twice within a minute. Now swaps over to the Diva.
Start to feel it. Get hacked out. Suzu'd when you want to play through the Rampage. Not pretty. Speaking of not pretty, Mag is doing some real work done to the Doomfist now, and that hurts Dallas Fuel greatly as they continue to get reset. Oh, Hanbin demeched and a free cap on the point. Fixes solo pushing the payload while Infernal 4v5 in Dallas' spawn.
What is it? We spent 4 minutes doing absolutely nothing. And now all hell's broken loose in the Dallas Fuel spawn. EMPs are up, and it's going to be a game of chicken between the two Sombras. Maybe if Bliss can stay out of LOS in that one. Maybe they can respond. Yeah, there's still progress being made, that's for sure. Look at this from Seoul, though. I mean, they're playing like rats, cockroaches, avoiding the light that is Edison's EMP. Edison gets a hack, runs away. Can't pin down any more than one member with this EMP. This is so well played by Seoul.
Well, they know Edison has an EMP now. The hack from him through reveals it, so Infernal have to play around it. Infernal don't need, I mean, all the distance from now on is great. It's just good bonus. And they'll run away from the Coalescence, so... Skew? No, he's not going to survive. I was going to say, if Skew lives there, that would have been insane as well. Dallas Fuel. We'll get something off the back of the coal. Not necessarily directly from the coal, but allows him to push up.
Hart got abducted as well, though, so it's going to be a little bit of progress lost for Dallas.
Plus exist.
Let's be real. Progress is very valuable for them. At least they can force out an ultimate here from the Doomfist.
That is the most Zest thing ever, by the way. He is the biggest payload stealer in all of APAC. He does it time and time again. You want to fight? And you think you're going to get some distance? No, it gets reset. Big EMP from Edison on the back line, but everyone lives.
Instead, it's Edison's team going down. Sparkle and MCD quickly finding that cobblestone path of Coliseum. Soul clean up, push that cart back, and at this point, it's not even about progress. It's just about making sure the cart stays in Dallas's half.
I mean, Seoul can just play defense for the rest of the map. They have the checkpoint already. They have some extra distance to have the 81. Mag, by the way, he's been playing super well on this Doom. I don't think Doom's a good hero, but Mag's making it look good. He actually hasn't died yet. If you're curious, he's the only deathless member across both teams. Doom is fairly vulnerable, but not a lot of lockdown. I think there was more lockdown when Humber was on Queen. Now that Humber's off Queen, Edison's the only thing that can really do anything with a hack, and that's only for 1 second. You have to really land on top of Mag. If you want to shut Mag down, someone's going to have to go Ana.
And now I'm worried. I mean, Dallas spent a lot of ultimates in that previous
my
fight.
God.
Oh, Edison down as well. Not only is that a pick that wins a fight that pushes the cart back, but it's also Edison being put behind on EMP charge, which MN3's already ahead in. Pops it just because Seoul have ults to spare. You might as well. Follow-up's a little clumsy, though, from the team in red. All of a sudden, it's not as clean a fight as you wished it would be.
They probably wanted a little bit more out of the EMP, but a 1-for-1 trade. Fixing now swapping over towards the brig. Them at 3 down is a lot more impactful. This is going to slow down the Seoul Infernal, but it's not Seoul Infernal that need to be worried. It's Dallas Fuel that have a lot of lost distance to regain. Still haven't taken down Mag yet. And Mag is doing so much.
Dallas have to be careful they don't overextend here. Sparkle peels back to his support line to help out with the Tracer, and actually does a phenomenal job of shutting down Zest post-recall. Mag goes in late as well, uncoordinated with said Tracer, and catches the Pulse Bomb on the return trip. Look at this peel from Sparkle. I mean, it's just playing bouncer to the back line, but it's working phenomenally.
Even when Dallas are pushing, they're losing time because Seoul Infernal delaying this. And finally, I think this should be a good, clean fight. When 3 members left on Infernal, this has got to be the good push for Fuel. But it's Zest. Zest is trying to stall the payload.
Oh no, Zest is doing it again!
He's stolen it!
Somebody, catch that robot!
This guy's actually a daytime burglar. With no security system installed for the Dallas Fuel. He ransacks the Dallas Fuel house time and time again. Just walks away with the TV or other appliances. He just, even if he didn't steal the payload, even if he just kept it stalled versus Bliss in a 1v1, that would have still been negative for Dallas Fuel. And look at that, Dallas Fuel win a fight, make no progress.
And they've got an EMP to go after this one. Where's the follow-up? Wow, Hanbin got there so late. He's underestimating the distance they needed to cover to get on top of Skewed, but there is no follow-up to that EMP. Now Seoul have a rally, which should buy time for them to get an EMP up of their own, if not just win the fight outright. Dallas respond with the sound barrier in tow, though. It's not enough to keep the members upright. The sustain from the rally just that little bit better. And now M3 sitting on what could very well end this series in that EMP.
Mag, after his first death, has gone over to the Zarya here as well, already on 51%. Plenty of ultimates online, especially the EMP, as you say. And with 30 seconds left to go, with the payload now heavily back into Dallas Fuel territory, they have to win, what, 3 consecutive fights after this, including this, actually. Have any shot, we're definitely going to head into the OT here. Dallas have only got half the distance required. They've got to go from 40 to 80 here, versus 3 ults from Infernal.
I like this positioning from Infernal. They're forcing Dallas into the hallway, into the welcoming arms of an MN3. Goes for a standard hack onto Hanbin after being bubbled by Mag. An insurance policy normally to make sure that that EMP goes off. Really kind of just pulls the Sombra out of position. Now Dallas are able to move a little bit further forward. They look to strike early with a Kitsune rush. That EMP still out of position. MN3 can't find a clean one. And in the meantime, Skewed's gone down. It's looking great for the Dallas Fuel to start things off in the overtime fight.
Man can't walk forward. He got nano there, but he just can't walk into the Kitsune rush at all. And now he's got no HP, no bubbles left, no grab, nothing. Big opportunity for the Dallas Fuel. Now they win a big fight off that Kitsune rush ultimate from MCD. Still, they have to play into the EMP from MN3, and that, as we mentioned earlier, is probably going to be the winner. They have to get this EMP off. Seoul Infernal can close out the series.
I mean, grab is there to follow it up. Still so many things for Dallas Fuel to get over, as if the hill wasn't already turning into a mountain as it was.
It's the cap.
Cap available. Seoul don't care. All they care about is landing this EMP cleanly. But MN3 teleports out again. They're going to go in with the grab first. Mag dives in to follow up, and Hanbin's down. Overtime becoming a very real thing as they don't have a tank to touch that cart. They've got to leave a Tracer, a Lucio, or a Reaper on it. Seoul Infernal firing from the wings up from on high. The rafters. What a position to rain down. Edison, though, could bail them out, too, with the Death Blossom. Now Rally being popped by Fixa, keeping Seoul Infernal even further up. There's just too much health to deal with. Dallas Fuel don't have enough to break through it. Seoul Infernal take the series 3-1.
And the ending just reminds me of Rialto all over again. There's no supports alive. MCD blistered down. Edison tries to clutch on a Death Blossom, does a good job of it, but in the ensuing 3v3, there's all the healing in the world for the side of the Seoul Infernal with the respawns around their back as well. Dallas feel respawn's going to be too far away. Respawn's going to take too long. Bliss killing M3 was actually huge. That gave Dallas feel a great shot. Get rid of the EMP, get rid of the Sombra. Put yourself in a position to maybe get a miracle push in. They were one fight away. They actually got the cap. But as you mentioned, Seoul Infernal gave the cap away as well. Dallas feel one more fight after that cap, and they might have been able to clutch through on that map. Both Rialto now and also Colosseo, I felt like was one fight away from Dallas Field from making some real magic happen, but that magic tends to only happen in the overtime. The rest of the map on both Colosseo and also Rialto, bit of a shambles from the Dallas Field.
Yeah, it's still, I think, a significant improvement. You watch the match, these two teams playing before, and it felt even more one-sided for Seoul in a lot of ways. Dallas have really picked it up, but too little too late scenario. They have one more opportunity where they'll play the winner of our next match coming up, but that's a pretty daunting task considering the tear that O2 Blast has been on, not to mention the firepower that Panthera's got behind them. A lot of tools available everywhere.
And you look at how close O2 Blast played Seoul Infernal as well, and you're thinking, man, Dallas Fuel had a reasonably competitive series versus Seoul Infernal, but compared to where O2 Blast were, there's still a bit of a gap there. Speaking of one of the gaps that we did see today, M3 played lights out. Unreal performance, and not even skewed because snipe away the player of the match this time from M3 as he popped off on all different heroes. We saw early on with the Hanzo, later on coming in with the Widowmaker, ending things out with the Sombra.
Yeah, I mean, map 5, I think a few shaky bits with the EMP, but like, no notes on virtually anything else. The job was done after the first few. A backpacking performance on the Hanzo, and one that impressively enough, they were able to invest in. Seoul felt very comfortable putting the entire plan on the back of getting MN3 high ground and keeping him up there and trusting that, yes, this player, if we give him the opportunity, is going to deliver, and boy, did MN3 deliver.
Especially in a matchup where I think, Zest was probably a little bit quieter this time around. M3 definitely putting on that pressure. Mag on that last map on the Doom, again, spent 6 to 7 minutes deathless. Made Doom look like a very competitive hero. Skewed was probably... I joke about him sniping away the player of the match, but early on, man, oh my goodness, Skewed
Map 1
put in a lot of work, especially on map 1. This is highlights from M3 on the Bastion that we fondly remember as well. Skewed on the backline for this map 1 did a ton of work. We'll see a few clips onwards, though, where M3 really made a case for his player of the match. And that was certainly after Legion Tower, but even on Legion Tower, things look good.
Yeah, it's funny that we mentioned the snipers being played by MN3, but the Bastion, that it really defined the early rounds in the series. Did a ton of work. This is it, though. I mean, all the way through Rialto.
Like, it was even at that.
3.5, 4 fights to finish this entire map, and almost every single one of them was predicated by a pick from MN3.
Yeah, I mean, he's so good at those, and really it just didn't stop, did it? Because you saw the Widowmaker afterwards. The attacking side was all sorts of M3 stuff going on. That trance moment is still funny to me, but just disgusting shots like that, man.
And so consistently at that. I mean, it took everything up until what was apparently definitely not a caster curse for any answer back from Edison. For every other moment in the match, I mean, it was just M3 all day. 1, 2, 3. Capped off a beautiful Rialto. Heading on to the Sombra. The manual hacks were, I mean, quite good, and the positioning was phenomenal. High damage for 10. Low death. Solid ult efficiency, especially when you consider that half the time he was playing Widowmaker.
Damage-wise for Bastion, definitely extreme. I mean, that's what you expect out of a Bastion player. Damage per 10, throwing that into a brawl matchup, I respect it, because the other option is you play the Reaper like Edison did. But I think you really want to melt down a Ramatra. Bastion's a great hero to do it with. I think the Sim was a little bit of a problem. The Sim on early night market especially was a good deal of the rotations and timings for him in 3. But later on, man, the Bastion certainly worked the treat, slowed down a little bit, then the Widowmaker and Hanzo picked up speed after that. Let's take a look at the interview.
이번엔 PO팀이니까 PO팀도 축하드립니다. Congrats on your play of the match, MN3.
그 아직까지 최종 진출 이런 거 아니라서 아직은 막 이렇게 행복해하지 않는 건가요?
So you haven't locked in
네,
MSM
맞죠.
yet, so you guess a little bit composed
남아
still?
있으니까.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a few matches up ahead,
오늘은
so
좀 딜러 최초로
keeping it kind of,
팀내에서 딜러 최초로
steady.
POT 받았는데 오늘 경기력은 좀 만족스러우신가요?
So are you are you satisfied with your performance today? I think I can be a little proud of that.
힘들어하는 선물아. 하지만 오늘도 경기에서 캐리했기 때문에 이긴 거고 오늘 보면서요 뭐 한조도 그랬습니다만 뭐 바스도 그랬고 마지막 그 위도우 3면 헤드 있잖아요. 기억나세요?
Do you remember the
그때
three
난리 났어요.
consecutive
본인이
headshots from your
그러고
Widow?
나서 게임을 딱 클러치하면서 끝낼 때 기분은 어떤가요?
So how does it feel to clutch and end the
저희
map?
팀원도 몇 명 죽어있던 상황이었어가지고
네.
어떻게 해야 되지 하면서 하고 있었는데
예.
딱 잡고 나서 내가 다 잡았다 나 이러고
So coming into that like fight, we were like already a few members down, so we were like,
Oh,
oh man, how do I approach this? And then after I got those kills, I was like, okay, I actually did it. And it felt good.
생각 드셨나요?
그 생각은 처음에 한주 할 때 들었어요.
이미 그때.
So
이미
when
내가,
did you
너무
kind of
잘했다. 이런 생각이 좀 들만한
feel that you were
실제
going to get
상대방의
the player of
조합을
the match?
맞춰서 바스티온 들고 왔는데
After the Hanzo? I mean, the Hanzo kind of hit, so yeah.
원래 준비는 안 했었고 이것도 약간 저번 경기 때 이런 조합하는 거 보고 약간
So was the Bastion a
했었어가지고
planned
잘,
strategy?
그리고
I mean, we didn't like specifically plan for it, but like the few matches before today, we kind of talked about how their comp played out, and we thought it was a good counter
이런
to that.
생각을 하면 어쩌면 통할 수 있겠다라는 생각을 좀 했던 것 같은데요. 자 그래요. 지금 아직까지 뭐 잔칫날이다 이런 건 아니고 MSM을 일단 지출하는 건 첫 번째고. 근데 지금 이 분위기 정도면 뭐 동부에서
So we
A1 뭐
haven't,
이런
we're
얘기
not
나올
in a
정도로 지금 MS
celebratory
선수의
mode
좋아지고
right now,
있는데
but you still are in a
작년보다
good
본인이 좀
position
실력이 더
to get to
좋아진 건가요?
MSM.
아니면 뭐 전체적으로 성숙해진 건지.
So
어떤 점이 좀
about
발전이
your
그
team
이유가 궁금합니다.
team vibes, do you think that you've grown together as a team, or is there any kind of differences compared to the earlier parts of the season?
살아있어야 되겠다라는 생각으로 게임을 하고 있어서
So more like we're kind of having a different mindset rather than everyone having to do, I actually have to be the carry. We're more like, hey, as long as I stay alive, I can believe in my teammates and I as a team can do it. So I think that's a
남은
big
팀
change.
세 팀 있잖아요. 남은 팀들 있잖아요. 이 팀들 중에서 본인들이 결승에서 만날 것 같은 팀이 어떤 팀일지.
So out of the teams remaining in the bracket, surviving in the bracket, who do you think will make it up to you in the finals?
어려워요?
아마 조금 어렵긴 한데
네.
다 약간 비슷한 것 같아가지고
그만큼 어렵다.
It is a
알겠습니다. 지금
difficult
목표는 그러면
question. I
MSM
think
꼭 아마
every
가고
team has a
싶으실 것
chance.
같은데 마지막으로 시청하시는 팬 여러분들에게 자 오늘 POTM 그리고 결승전 간 그리고 결승전에 임하는 자 각오 한 말씀 들어보겠습니다.
So lastly, a message to fans.
이렇게 조합이나 전략 같은 거 잘 정리해서 올 테니까 다른 경기들도 잘 봐주시고.
So I mean, we'll prepare really well and have a good strats coming into every game, each and every game. So please can look at us with great interest and also support us.
오버워치 씬을 바라보는 멘트였어요. 우리 팀에 대한 관심과 여러 가지 것들. 야, 알겠습니다.
And not also
감동적인
just our
인터뷰였습니다.
team, but
자,
also
결승에서 기대
Overwatch
많이
in
하겠습니다.
general. Please keep look
네,
at us.
지금까지 MN3였습니다.
And that was the end of the interview. Back to you guys.
Appreciate the interview. Some strong words there from MN3 of confidence, but certainly unsure of who's coming out of that lower bracket, Admiral.
Yeah, and we still have O2 and Panthera to play through two very strong teams. O2 so far been the only team to play Infernal extremely close. So while MN3 might not have said it, I think O2 Blast might end up being that team that faces Infernal further down the line. We'll have to find out though. You'll be back with Hero to take over that game. I'll see you guys later.